Hey, friend and colleague, it is Nikki from Full Voice Music on our podcast show this week, episode 204. We are talking about teacher confidence. That's right. Did you know you are doing a great job? We are celebrating everything you do and how you serve your students right here on the Full Voice podcast. Hey, friend and colleague, welcome to the Full Voice podcast. Thank you for pressing play, and I'm so glad that you are here. If you are listening to this podcast at time of release, it is March 2025, and I don't know about you, but the last few months have felt like a couple of years. The world is really heavy right now. There's a lot going on. And I wanted to take this opportunity in this podcast to celebrate all of my hardworking friends and colleagues, all of you in the trenches, all of you creating spaces for people to learn about their voices, to learn about singing, to become comfortable with their voices and build their confidence. Oh my goodness, this is important work now, isn't it? And I know that you are opening your doors and seeing students who are afraid and angry and tired, and you are probably afraid and angry and confused and tired like everybody else. And I just want you to know that what you do is important, and it's so important right now to take care of yourself. I want to let everybody know that I had to take the social media apps, Facebook and Instagram apps, off of my phone. I just found myself getting sucked into so many angry posts and confusing posts, and that algorithm really knows how to keep you on there and get your emotions working. And I found myself getting really upset. So I made the move, even though I use both of those tools for business. I took it off my phone. So if you've been trying to get in touch with us through social media channels, you might want to just email us at the website, which is hello@fullvoicemusic.com. I will go back eventually to social media, but I'm not ready yet. I still need to protect my heart. I also want to let all of our American friends know that we love you. And this is so strange to have this divide, this strange thing that is happening now. And we have so many wonderful colleagues in the U.S. and I've been in touch with them and talking to them, and I want to send out big hugs to everybody. The work that we do is important, and it's not easy work, and it's certainly not easy work when you are holding space for people that are, feeling extreme emotions. So before I get into telling you that you are doing a great job and why you're doing a great job, and also helping those who are feeling that they are not doing a great job, because I've got some really interesting teacher takeaways to share, I want to start this podcast by sharing some really fabulous clips from some of the professional development that we do here at Full Voice. So we had a wonderful teacher training workshop. So we have online courses, but we also do live workshops. My guest was Dr. Jenevora Williams, and she was talking about vocal health for children. And it was fabulous. It was so good. So many misconceptions and myths that she went through, and myth busting. That's what she was doing. It was so wonderful. And I wanted to share a little clip from that presentation. Jenevora is talking about what we are listening for when we are assessing vocal health, what to key in and what to zone in on and focus on when we are assessing a child's vocal health. So here is a clip from our Vocal Health for Children workshop with Dr. Jenevora Williams.
So when we're working with kids and we're listening to them, what are we listening for? What are we listening for? Qualities in the voice. And this is where you are all experts, because you are all fabulous listeners. You've all got great ears. and you can tell these things. Often the kids' parents haven't noticed. They get so used to it, they don't notice that there's any issue at all with the vocal health of their child. They just think it's all just rather cute, that they're husky or that they're not pronouncing things well. So what we're listening for breathiness. Yeah, breathiness. And all of these qualities are in the speaking voice. Yeah, that's your main way in, is listening to the speaking voice. So we're listening for breathiness. Huskiness, hoarseness, and rough. People have different ways of describing what they're hearing. So if the student says to you, my voice is a bit hoarse today, that's the word to use back. Even if you think, oh, it's not hoarse, it's just breathy, right? Use the word that they've used. And that just means that there's a bit of instability in the way that the vocal folds are vibrating. Breathiness means there's a bit of a gap. Either the vocal folds aren't coming together because the muscles aren't working efficiently, or they're not coming together because there's lumps and bumps in the way. Huskiness, hoarseness, and roughness are instability in the vibratory pattern. Weakness can be just from fatigue. So weakness is inability to project the voice. And it's just quiet. They can't get it out. Strain is when it sounds tight and it sounds constricted. Instability or cracks in the voice can be the sort of instabilities of when there's a bit of flipping, register flipping, bit of yodeling going on in the speaking voice. Pitch range limitations. So that is going to be more evident in the singing voice. All right, if they've got good strong sound, but they've only got 6-7 notes. And delayed onset. This is a good one to test. Can they do a clear onset on a simultaneous or glide onset? So e, ooh, ooh. Can they come in straight away with the sound, or do they get he, ooh? Is there a bit of air and a bit of effort coming out with it? So those are the sort of things you're listening for. And when you hear that, there are things that you can do to manage that voice.
So we will be doing that workshop again later this year, and I hope that you get a chance to check it out. Jenevora does a wonderful presentation and shares so much information. Now, we are so pleased to be the publisher of Genevora's book, her third edition of Teaching Singing to Children and Young Adults. And I do want to give everybody an update. That book is now available on Amazon as a paperback and in hardcover. I also want to let people know that it is available as an ebook, and we have chosen Kobo.com as our platform. Kobo is a Canadian company. It is available worldwide, and just like other platforms, you can get a free app and you can read the ebook on your tablet, your computer, your phone, whatever you like, or if you have a Kobo reader. So Kobo.com, you can search Teaching Singing to Children and Young Adults. It's there if that is a convenient avenue for you. And I want to let everyone know that you can get Genevora's book on our website, fullvoicemusic.com, and for our friends in Australia and New Zealand, au.fullvoicemusic.com. Now, the other professional development that we do, which has been so much fun, and I've enjoyed welcoming teachers from around the world into my Zoom room, are live office hours. Our live office hours, this is a free teacher webinar. Now, you need to be on our newsletter. Our newsletter is where you learn about the topic of the month and where you can register yourself with your questions. Our live office hours is created. It is a presentation based around your questions. Now, we had the delightful Michelle Markwart Deveaux on our last live office hours. And my friends, Michelle was gracious. She answered everybody's questions and she was spicy. The topic was pricing your offers. So people had questions about what do I charge? What I charge for group lessons? How do I tell people that my fees are increasing? Now, one of the questions that came up is I want to keep my lessons affordable so that families can afford lessons for their children. Trigger warning. Michelle tells a hard truth, and she does it with all the love in her heart. But this is what Michelle has to say about pricing your lessons.
You have been in this field for very, very, very many years. I know your name from the Facebook groups. You make fantastic comments. You bring a level of depth and experience to this conversation. And I want to honor that. And I also want to tell you that it is not your business what people can pay. That is not your business. That is not our business. Being worried about other people's money is not helpful to them. It's actually quite patronizing. Don't tell me what I can do with my money. Right? We don't care about other people's money. We care about other people's well-being. We care about their well-being. And when we provide something that increases their well-being through song, music, understanding of the commitment it takes to learn something new, to be uncomfortable at a growth edge and then become comfortable again, to have fun, to move our bodies, then we should not be worried about if they are choosing to pay for that or not. If someone cannot afford you, they are not your ideal client and they can find someone else. They are not worth you changing your entire business because one person has a feeling that is their feeling about their money that they are trying to impose on you. And of all the people in the world, you are the queen of this. No one gets to push you around ever again. If anyone ever complains to you about your pricing again, I want you to look at them in the face with all the love in the world and say, that's too bad. Please go find another studio. That is too bad. That is too bad that you feel that way. Go find somewhere else. You are a queen. Do not allow that anymore. And yes. And again, this is where we really get into the feelings of it. How many of you are noticing that you feel an internal obligation to make this affordable? And you want to know the irony of it is that you could never be affordable anyway, no matter what, because this business model, one-on-one lessons, is inherently elitist. It is inherently scarce. It is inherently scarce. There's no way you could teach as many people in a week, even in a multi-teacher studio. There is no way you could teach as many people in a week. We'll get to that next, but we got to establish this first before the group lessons is going to make sense. You know what I mean? There is no way, even in group, even if you did all group lessons, which by the way, in Speakeasy, we have a handful of people that do that where they only teach group lessons. You know, this is the thing where it's like affordability is not that business model. Affordability is volume, where you're creating something that people can engage, that your time is reduced, that the value, the most valuable thing you sell is that unit of time. That's your unit of time. And that is your moneymaker. And when it's you, it has to be priced in a place that's going to make you what you need to make. And you are not obligated to make sure other people can afford it. if that's really important to you to make sure that people can afford, like it seems Barbara is saying, right? I want families to afford voice lessons for their child. Great. Then you need to come up with an additional revenue stream that will supplement what they are paying. But it doesn't change your price point. It changes how you are getting that price point paid. Right? Go like create some other online resource or something. Go create another revenue stream where you're making 7 times as much and you can scholarship your own students. Become your own bank. That's what we've done in the speakeasy. That's what I've done with my business is I became my own bank because I saw this as a problem, right? But you can't just undercharge because then you're the one suffering. And if you're suffering, guess what? You're not going to be a very good teacher because your allostatic load and your decision fatigue is going to be so high that you cannot actually do the things someone's paying you to do, even if it's at a low rate. And there's so much research about that. There's so much research about being stressed out and how that translates into an educational environment.
Ooh, my friends, if you have not raised your rates, if you are struggling to communicate to people your fee structure, please go to our YouTube channel and watch the live office number 12 with Michelle Markwart Deveaux, all about pricing your offers. It is so great. She is so generous with her time. So a special thank you to Michelle for serving our teachers and helping them. I also want to let people know that they on our website right now is Michelle's ebook, The Art of the Inquiry. And this is a 60-page ebook that helps teachers create systems around onboarding students. So what does that mean? It means when people reach out, they send an email, they go through Facebook, maybe you meet them on the street and they ask about your offers and they're interested in lessons. How you handle that and the systems that you have in place and how organized that is has a lot to do with your success in landing those new students. In fact, sometimes depending on how we are or are not set up, we end up actually discouraging people from working with us. So Michelle's ebook holds your hand, walks you through the steps, and really helps you to understand how to make the process more professional and save you time and money and help you find some really great new students. So check that out. It's called The Art of the Inquiry. It's on our website. It's an ebook download. Now, my friend, let's talk about teacher confidence. A little while ago on the live office hours, when I was creating the slide decks, I put a slide in there because I think that it was needed at the end of the presentation. And it said very simply, you are doing a great job. And I took time at the end of each live office hours to remind teachers that you are doing a great job. And I was watching the teachers in my Zoom room, and I could see how much they needed to hear that. And I can recall back in my teaching days, and I've said this many times, there were days where I felt like really fabulous. I felt like I was making a difference and I might have been tired, but I felt really good. And I remember there's been days where my last student leaves and I put my head on my desk and had a little cry and I felt like a big, big imposter. Teaching is not for the faint of heart. Being a teacher means that you wear so many hats. And being a teacher means that you are also a student forever. Never-ending professional development. If I look back on when I first started teaching, there's just so much information now. And it can seem completely overwhelming to try and keep up with all of the information. There's so many workshops, there's so many courses, there's so many books, there's so many things that we need to know. And many of us are just trying to be, really good at teaching, and yet we're also learning about running a business. Whether we like it or not, if you're holding out your hand and accepting money for your services, you are running a business. And I think at times it just doesn't seem fair. It's not fair that we have to handle so much, and especially now, like I said at the beginning, it's a heavy time. It can feel really discouraging. I would also like to tell people that if you are working with beginners, it can feel really discouraging because our beginners need a slower pace, they need more repetition, and sometimes that makes us really doubt our ability as teachers. So, I wanted to just share a little bit. This is from a blog that I wrote a little while ago in response to teacher patience. And we've been trying to share this information on our Instagram, the inspirational reminders to teachers. Because I feel sometimes teachers don't. Well, I feel most of the time teachers do not get the credit that they are due. Teachers are heroes and they're so important. And our society seems to really not support us sometimes. So, um, the teacher trap that is so easy to fall into is that when you're working with beginners, those students that need more time, more repetition, more reassurance can make us feel unsure about our abilities as a teacher. And this is so true in the voice studio because the voice is so tied to their development, to their emotional development and everything. And it just takes so much time to see progress, right? And sometimes it sometimes feels like we take, one step forward, two steps back, which is very much how we learn. And one of the quotes that I love and that I've shared many times is a teacher's greatest virtue is not in knowing all the answers, but in patiently guiding your students toward their own discoveries. I think this is one of the things we need to remind ourselves so that we can take the pressure off of ourselves and be more kind to ourselves is that we don't need to have all the answers. In fact, there's nothing more beautiful than turning to your student and saying, you know what? I don't know. I'll have to check that out. I'll ask a friend. I'll look that up for you. There's no guilt in saying that. And I know that for a long time I felt that I had to have all the answers, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. So here are some helpful reminders about teacher patience. And I hope you can take this in. So teacher patience looks like, this is what teacher patience looks like in real time. So the first thing is staying calm when student progress feels slow. Nothing stresses us out more when we have to repeat lessons or repeat exercises, or repeat ourselves. But that is actually our job. Our students need lots of review, lots and lots of review. And this teacher patience is also allowing each student to develop at their natural pace. And for some students, that is incredibly slow. One of the ways that we can do this is finding different ways to explain the same concept. Maybe we modify the exercise. Maybe we change our language. Maybe we use a different visualization. Maybe we ask our student what they would like to do, or how they would like to process it, or how they would like to approach it. That was one of the big takeaways from Jenevora's presentation is when in doubt, ask the student. Ask them what they would like. Now, I think one of the teacher traps that I want to talk about and then move into a little takeaway for you. We get wrapped up in looking at some of the traditional markers of success. So for teachers, we're often working towards big things like recitals or preparing students for examinations or preparing students for auditions. These are long-term goals. And there are so many micro steps to get a student from the start to the finish. Now, I had a fun little experiment. I went to Chat GPT and I asked the computer list all of the steps needed to successfully prepare a young child for their first recital. And there was 97 steps. 97 steps that the computer barfed out. And now I happen to know that that particular computer has never prepared a student for a recital, because even though there were a lot of steps, there were some key things that they forgot to do. So just so you know, make me feel better. So yes, 97 little things, little steps, little activities that had to be done to successfully prepare a student for a recital. So I wanted to talk about how we can make it easier for our students and for us, because when we see these long-term goals and we're trying to rush our students so that they make it to the finish line, a better strategy might be celebrating all of those smaller victories along the way. For our students, long-term goals are very mysterious. Our brains are hardwired for quick wins. We need to check those little steps off of our list. I think all of us can relate to that. Projects that go on and on and on. It's hard to keep motivated. It's hard to keep on task. I find that sometimes with even within the Full Voice team, our bigger projects, I find myself getting very tired, very weary towards the end. Like that last getting to the finish line can feel so difficult. So imagine what it's like for a child. So one of the ways that we can help deal with the stress of students that are progressing slowly and keep those students motivated and working towards goals is to acknowledge and celebrate all of those little steps and have some little mini celebrations worked into those along the way. And one of the ways we can do this is with moment marking language. And this is beneficial not only for your students, but I guarantee it will make you feel much better about their journey, about their progress. So let me give you an example. So we often say in our lessons to our students, we say things like, "Great job. I loved that." That's a phrase I use all the time. "I loved that. That was excellent." Maybe we slap a sticker on their song, on their book. What's interesting and what is important to know is that when you use "good job" or "well done" or "way to go," that is super vague. And I guarantee that your students don't exactly know what they are being praised for, because they're probably thinking about a different thing when they're going through that exercise or singing the song. Maybe they're thinking, "Man, I am so hungry right now. I can't wait to have my dinner." And you say, "Good job." And they're like, oh, okay. Right? So moment marking language is when we are specific with our compliments so that our students know exactly what we are talking about. So for example, you could say to a student that is working on a song and maybe they're working on their breath control, or maybe they've been working on their phrasing. You could say something to them like, "Did you feel how your breath supported that phrase?" Now, that does two things. One, you're identifying the thing that they did really well, but also you're asking them to reflect, and you're asking them to get into their body. Now, they might not be able to comment it, but if you say, that was excellent. Did you feel how your breath supported that note or that phrase? And then you ask them to do it again, I guarantee their focus is going to be where you want it to be. The other one that I love, and this is so important, even for, I'm just looking at my notes here, even for adults, is getting them to reflect on their progress. Because again, our students need to be reminded about how far they've come, or the things that used to be difficult that aren't difficult anymore. That is so important. So you could say something like, oh, do you remember 3 weeks ago and that note was tricky, and well, now it's just part of your voice. So we're reflecting on progress, and we're talking about the notes that they are singing. Now, one of the best and most productive questions that you can ask is, wow, how did you do that? I love the way you sang that note. How did you do that? This is developing awareness. And they might not know the first time you ask that, but they will be thinking about it and paying attention to it when you ask them to do it one more time. Moment marking language helps to bring students into the space, to get in line with what you are listening for, and helping them to get into their bodies. And it's a wonderful way to celebrate all of those little victories. In every lesson, your student is making connections and doing things differently. And we forget how monumental those little victories are. And celebrating them can help keep their energy up. It can help keep them engaged. And my friends, it helps us. It helps us recognize all of those victories. Moment marking language. In your lessons this week, give it a try. Don't say, take out the good jobs and the way to goes, or way to go, and then add in that moment marking language. Did you hear this? How did you do that? Did you notice when? I love the way that note went down and you held it for 3 beats. That was incredible. That's what I want you to try this week. The other thing that is so important and very helpful are little physical celebrations. And I like to think of these as resets, and they're so helpful, especially with children. But I would not hesitate to do these with adults and teenagers as well. So physical celebrations like a high five. I love high fives, especially with little boys, because little boys are going to try to smack your hand so hard, and they smile and they laugh. It is a wonderful reset. It gives them a break, and it helps them to go back and focus on something after the fact. So it helps to keep them engaged and focused. So high fives, bows, little happy dances, whatever little movement that they can do to celebrate the moment is so very, very helpful. You need to make sure that you celebrate all of this with parents as well. In fact, it is essential to share all of this with parents, because they don't know. Children don't tell them anything. And they need to know that there's progress happening. This is going to help them feel confident in their investment in the students' lessons. And so just a general guideline for moment marking language and celebrating. When you are celebrating, it needs to be specific to what they have accomplished. So they need to understand what you are celebrating. It needs to be immediately after the success. So don't wait and type it in an email. That will have no impact on anyone. And if you didn't know this, nobody reads your emails anyways. And it needs to be genuine, right? It needs to be a genuine, hey, this is a really important, great thing that you did. I'm so pleased, all of that. And sometimes it can be silly, like a high five, a happy dance, a goofy little sticker or something. So that's my little teacher tip for you today. And again, I hope that you can bring this into your studio. I hope it brings some smiles and some joy and a reminder of the important work that you are doing in those tiny little steps, in those tiny little victories. My friend, I want to thank you again for joining me. And I hope that you can visit our website, sign up for our newsletter so you can get notified of our next live office hours coming up in April. And I want to send all of my friends and colleagues, wherever you are, a big, big hug, my love, and my teacher patience. Have some of mine. As always, I am wishing you inspired teaching and happy singing.